The show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Love Talk Radio.
Greetings, welcome, come on in, welcome. Welcome, come on in, welcome. Revolutionary Voodoo, New Orleans, Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. All is a blessing.
Come back home to Africa. She's calling your name to me. Come back home to Africa. The fatted calf and golden ring are waiting for you once again. Come back to me. I'm longing for my memory. Coming back to you. Out of bondage and now I'm free.
Welcome, come on in. You know what day it is, come on in. You know what time it is, come on in. Come on in, welcome. Greetings.
The fatted calf and golden ring are waiting for you again. Coming back to you.
I'm longing for my family. Coming back to you. Out of bondage and now I am free. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 Come on in. Come on in. Greetings. Welcome. Come on in. Welcome. Fire is ablazing. Water is hot. Come on in, whether you feel voodoo or not. Come on in. Welcome, come on in.
Come back home to Africa. Come back home. Come back home to Africa. Come back home.
Da 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 What time is it? You know what time it is. It is noon, U.S. Central Standard Time, here in this beautiful, historic and most enchanted city in America, New Orleans, Louisiana, land of my ancestors and those who came before me along this Hoodoo Obeah life path and journey, passing down the great Obeah stick along with the knowledge of the life-giving herbs, roots, plants, rituals, and minerals. Please continue to join me here at high noon U.S. Central Standard Time for another edition, another powerful edition of the Power Lunch, Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. I am the Pan-African Spiritualist, practitioner, advisor, Hoodoo Obeah Bokur, sharing with you in all things spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, evolutionary, revolutionary, healing, and holistic from a Pan-African Hoodoo spiritualist perspective. Understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. This is indeed my constant prayer, my mantra, my affirmation, reverberation, reiteration, and it is my ever-living reality. It is crucial to the very foundation, the very thing that's holding me up, and all that I see and might see and create and recreate in this place that we share, Mother, Father, Earth. And I describe Mother, Father, Earth as being very plastic. Molecules and atoms can just move around and can reshape and reshift and transform from one thing to another. But it's all relative. It's all an illusion depending on where you are, where you're standing in the moment, in your truth. So I'm always grateful. I'm always grateful for the opportunity to not only be here with you and share in this chosen, created, sacred space. We choose to be here. We choose to come together in this moment in time space, wherever you are on the globe. And I know my listeners are everywhere on the globe. And I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. I'm humble for you. But know that we are supported. Know that we are held up. Know that we have our very being by great and mighty ancestors, those who came before, those who laid the foundation through blood, through sweat, through tears, those whose very being, whose very lives are what now bring us forward in this life, in this present time space, in this moment. Our ancestors are our first line of defense. Our ancestors stand up in us in everything, that which we do, that which we say, that which we believe, but even that which we believe we conceal. Believe we conceal, because nothing's concealed. Even that which we believe that we contain and hold close and hold secret, ancestors are already there. Ancestors already know. Your ancestors already are standing up. So we can't do anything. And we do all things first, understanding the power of the great mighty shoulders in which we now have our very being. And for which I'm grateful. But I also acknowledge the powers of the day. Some of you know who they might be. I acknowledge the power of foundation and strength and creation and recreation. The power to have direction and understanding and to create and recreate and see the fulfillment of that which we create and recreate. I acknowledge those that came before, the indigenous spirits, the indigenous ancestors, those who were on this land, even in the process of the Middle Passage, those who were on this land as we got here. And so I blow the peace pipe for the indigenous spirits, the indigenous ancestors, the indigenous powers. And when we think about our herbs, our plants, our roots, our potions, lotions, and notions, we talked about that a little bit on yesterday. Why are y'all buying commercial sage? Why are you spending money for stream? Because that's what you're spending money for, is stream. Didn't you hear me describe yesterday that there are parts in the West where this sage is just wild? It just grows wild. Why aren't you growing sage? It's springtime. Who needs white thread? Who needs white cord? This off my own bush. This white sage out of my own yard. And it's shaped like this because you cut it, you harvest it, you hang it up, you let it dry. You let it dry. So why are we going to the botanicas and buying stuff that we can grow? I had a young man, a friend in Jamaica. Thank you, Kiona, beloved. Asked me earlier today about green skull candles and what are green skull candles used for? Burning candles. Oh, I know it wasn't the answer that he expected. He expected something magical, something hoodoo, something voodoo. Green skull candles don't have anything to do with voodoo. It's a commercial, botanica produced product to get your coins, to get your money. And so now you equate things that you see on the shelf at the botanica, that you see online in some of these very cute and entertaining posts, as having something authentically and organically to do with voodoo, with hoodoo, with root work, with conjure. And so I asked him, how many green skull candles would your ancestors have had access to 100 years ago? 75 years ago, 50 years ago, let alone 200 years ago. So what were the Haitians doing, you know, without that green skull candle? We didn't even use commercial candles. We used candles if wax was available, if beeswax was available, if you could hide that from massa or even acquire it from massa, you know, then we had access to candles. But candles had a purpose, you know, they weren't wasted, if you will. And so the idea of light and illumination more often than not would have come from oil, would have come from oil lamps. So even the idea of the commercial candles, you know, the glass candles, the candles that have imprinted imagery on it. And some of you in this room know that you can imprint imagery of your choosing on the candle. That's available today. There are sites that help you to put your own imagery on the candle. Kiona, beloved, am I missing my questions? Oh, okay. Thank you for being with me. My phone number is area code 845-277-9143. 845-277-9143. When you're ready with your question, comment, or request, please do press the number 1 on your telephone keypad. I will be more than happy to open your mic and bring you into the conversation. Now listen, I don't have a whole lot of time today. I'm a little bit hoarse. I've been in ritual a great deal all morning, and I have other appointments to do. I actually have a celebrity appointment today. So I don't have a whole lot of time. So we're going to sort of hit it and quit it. We're going to come in and keep it moving. I acknowledge your power as a god, as a goddess, to create and recreate the reality that you seek, that you desire. But I implore you, I beg of you to be willing to do the work. Be willing to do the work. Don't be beguiled. I know I went on a little tangent about botanicas and whatnot, but don't be beguiled by what you see on the internet, particularly if it seems too good to be true. too quick to be reality, too fast to be within the realm of what's logical. Be careful. There are predators out there who are preying on your desire. They're preying on your thirst for, your hunger for, your need for, but also your unwillingness to do some homework, to do some study. Start with yourself. Start with yourself. I started this journey looking for myself. I started this journey trying to understand myself. And in doing so authentically, honestly, organically, then of course you have to break down the layers. You have to peel away the layers, you know, your upbringing, your environment, your family, your education, your experience. But then you get to your truth. What is your truth separate from all the voices, separate from all the noise? What is the truth that you are absolutely committed to standing up in? Stop hiding this. We're not hiding ATR in 2021. We're not hiding voodoo in 2021. Not authentic voodoo. Not authentic commitment to these systems. Not authentic commitment to indigenous practice and tradition. And by all means, be connected to the people. But be connected to the people of that lineage, of that tradition, of that path, of that system. Be connected. Take this time to evolve our sense of relationship building. We need to do better in building relationships. We need to do better at approaching the world in the sense of I need, I want, I desire. Can you help me? Can you give it to me? Is this a gateway to what I want? Without taking a moment to breathe. Without taking a moment to acknowledge the humanity of the other person. The humanity of the teacher, the humanity of the service person, the humanity of the essential worker, the humanity of the people that are in the mud, who are collecting our garbage, who are picking up our mess, who are keeping our environments clean. Yes, I'm speaking interdimensionally right now. I'm speaking in a very literal way that's very on time for what we're dealing with right now. But I'm also speaking what's going on in here. Just get rid of what's not useful. Get rid of what's not helpful. Get rid of what is binding you up. Get rid of what's toxic in you and for you. Get rid of what's not working for you. Somewhere in a room, they're saying, you know, to keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is insanity. It's insanity. You got to take a different course. You got to take a detour. And when I look at us and our connection to these systems, we got to get beyond the fads. We got to get beyond the trends. Oh my goodness, if I get another question about artificial stuff that's being sold, that's being offered to you, that's being promoted, and we still today are falling for it, I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. There's a part that says, do we really want to be tricked? Do we really want to be fooled? Do we really prefer what's not real, what's artificial, what's been bought and paid for and put together over what's natural, over what's wholesome, over what's real? I'm grateful for you, and remember now, I don't have a whole lot of time because I do have an appointment shortly. So please call me with your questions, comments, and requests. Let me look at my phone lines at area code 845-277-9143, 277-9143. When you're ready with your question, comment, or request, do press the number 1 in your on your telephone keypad. I will be more than happy to unmute your mic and bring you into the conversation. Peace and blessings, beloved Orixa, Neophyte Bokur. Thank you so much for your continued love and participation and support. Thank you so much, Kiona. Your Highness, beloved, thank you so much. She was here before the lights came on. You're wondering if who is with you. I'm not seeing the first part of what you said. Your Highness, I see I'm 38 years old. I've always wondered if she is with me. Who is she? I'm not getting that part of your question. Luana Autry, your question is not complete. I see greetings, I have been, and then there's nothing else. So I don't know what's going on with the chat box, but Keon, if you can help me out, because I'm a little confused. I would like to respond to she, but who is she? Who is the she that she's referring to? And why are these questions showing up in the chat? Yes, beloved, D'Amico, beloved, thank you so much. Yes, the magic is in the garden. I planted this sage 3 years ago. 3 years ago. And so it survives, you know, the Louisiana winter, New Orleans winter, and comes back hardy every year. And all I really have to do is go out there and break off some or pull off a branch, you know, and dry it if I'm going to use it to burn, to smudge, to cleanse. Sometimes I'll break it down into a powder and mix it with other herbs, oils, roots, depending on what I might be trying to do, depending on what I might be, you know, trying to accomplish. Today I'm using my cast iron because, of course, in the ritual calendar of things today we acknowledge Osei Ogu. And so I got all kind of cast iron, don't be confused. I got all kind of cast iron, all kind of shapes, sizes, you know, uses. Of course, this is leg-was pot. This is the leg-was pot, you know, my 3-legged pot. And you don't open or close any ceremony, any ritual without crossing over into the crossroads. So Eshu's always present. Eshu's always available. Thank you so much for your questions, your comments, your requests. I will be moving forward momentarily. So please come at me with the quickness. Yes, I am available to do your live readings. I am available to assist you in your endeavors. Looks like she might be asking about the dead or someone who's on the other side, Egun. We can absolutely talk about that, beloved. Follow Kiona's instructions and she'll help me to get to you. Hoodoo occultism. Greetings, beloved. Can we talk about toxic family habits that come between personal relationships? Yes, absolutely. And I appreciate how you worded your question, because the toxic family habits absolutely carry into the relationships, hands down. And so if we don't heal self, which requires us healing the root, you know, who we are, how we were born, of whom we were born, and then lineage, not just relatives, you know, specific people, mama, daddy, grandparent, etc., but lineage. When you speak of family habits, you're talking about lineage. something that's then passed down. We know, for instance, certain health issues, diabetes, heart problems, high blood pressure, tend to pass down through a family, pass down through a lineage. Well, why is that? Is that just biological? Is that just chemical? Or is there more to it that might be spiritual, that might be behavioral? When you speak of habits, we also conjure the idea of behavior, learned behavior, or evolved behavior, of how our environment shapes and reshapes our behavior. So our family is going to leave an imprint on us stronger than any other imprint. Your childhood, your upbringing, particularly from birth to 5 years old, is going to leave the strongest imprint on the rest of your life. And then that period of your life from 6 years old to 35 years old, now you have an opportunity to impress upon the environment, to take what you know, what you've been through, what you've experienced, and now you're out there in the world applying that. Before that, you pretty much are up to the responsibility and authority of your parents, particularly from birth to 5 years old. You're not making a whole lot of decisions, conscious decisions, on your own. Your mom, your dad is choosing almost everything for you, almost every move you make. But 6, 7, 12, 15, now your personality is coming through. Now what you know, I like to say, understand. What you understand might just be information, might just be what you heard, might be just what you remember, might just be what was written down. But understanding is taking that and then, okay, I get it, I see it, I can apply it, I can flip it around, I can take it apart and put it back together if I want to. As a child, I was that kind of kid. I love to take things apart. Electronics, whatever it was, I wanted to know how things work. One of the craziest events in my family was around me taking something apart. My dad loved to give me broken stuff. My dad loved to give me his broken stuff. So he would get stuff for himself, and then if it didn't work anymore, or if it wasn't up to his standard, then he would pass it down to me. And he loved these watches. And back in the early 80s, there was always a watch commercial on. And they were selling all kinds of fake watches, faux watches, designer watches with crystals and stones and all kind of, unique stuff. If you live in Miami or you live in Los Angeles or New York City, somewhere in your town right now where there's a whole wall of just sunglasses or a whole wall of just watches. And so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so he gives me this watch and I take it apart. I'm trying to figure out, is the battery, is there something else going on with this watch? And inside the back of this watch, he had cut out a picture of a boy and a girl, probably about the size of a dime, And they were like twins. I mean, you could tell that in the picture, but one was a boy, one was a girl. And so I'm immediately, okay, who is this? Why is it hidden in the back of this watch like this? And, and of course I approached my mother with it. And my mother was in a great deal of denial back then. Often when a woman is in a relationship where she's controlled, where she's not allowed to speak, where she's not allowed to exert her personality, and when religion gets involved, that sometimes makes matters worse, because then it's, biblical, then it's, Quranic, then it's, the book says the man is the head of the household, and therefore, and so if a woman is already challenged at the level of ego, self-esteem, how she feels about her self-worth, self-value, then that dominant masculine figure, because butch women can do it too, butch women do it too, that the masculine dominant figure in the relationship takes over, and then there's this controlling thing. So even in that moment, she wouldn't allow herself to realize what I was holding in my hand. I, at 12, knew exactly what I was holding in my hand. And now I'm expecting a response. And of course, her response was, well, you know, I'll handle it. Let me talk to your daddy about it later. And at that point, I never heard anything else about those twins. It took my father's sister, Rolene, Aunt Lean, to tell me the truth about who those twins were. So the road to self-discovery, to exploration, to understanding self absolutely requires us, Hoodoo occultism, to look at toxicity in ourselves, in our family. Even if mama's pregnant, even if you're pregnant right now and in the sound of my voice, you want to create an environment, a sacred space for your child to develop in peace, in love, in harmony, sometimes in stillness, in calmness. Things that you want that not only the child to then manifest at a later date. Hoodoo occultism's question was about personal relationships. Let me put that back up on the screen again so y'all know what I'm talking about, because I know I can jump around sometimes. Personal relationships, that's when you're going to manifest what you know, what you think you know. And often subconscious cues, because when feelings and hormones and chemicals and love get involved and flirting gets involved, sometimes you're not on your 100 now. Sometimes you can be confused by what you feel. So it's in those moments, personal relationships, that you're often going to respond like that. You don't have a whole lot of time to think. And so what you believe, what I call demonstration, what you know, what you've experienced, that's what's going to stand up. That's what's going to aggress forward in the personal relationships. So it's almost like cutting toxic ties. It's almost like cutting relationship entanglements and removing people, places, and things from your inner self that no longer serve you, and being willing to look at it for what it is and be honest. It's not always about being honest with me, you know, or the practitioner or the minister or the therapist. But if you can't be honest with you about what might be toxic, what might be a habit that's learned or ingrained from that lineage footprint, from that family footprint, then it absolutely shows up time and time and time again in your relationships. I can remember a point where I couldn't count how many whole, healthy marriages were in my life back in the 80s, back in that time. So I looked at my grandparents and my parents and my aunts and my uncles, and I examined with an erudite mind the nature of those relationships and how they would then affect me. And so that's followed me. And now my lifestyle further complicates trying to develop a relationship with someone. If they're not, what the magical book says, equally yoked, you're already on a problem. Today, in the spirit of Osei Ogun, you got to look at the foundation of things. You gotta look at how things are built, how things are put together, how things are rooted at the foundation. And sometimes you got to separate the wheat from the tare. Sometimes you got to cut away, chop away, get rid of, eliminate what's no longer serving you, what's no longer helping you. And so it's hardest, Hoodoo occultism, when we look at ourselves, because it does require that level of honesty. You know, I knew my dad was aggressive. My dad was angry. My dad was vicious. My dad was violent. So at 10, at 11, at 12, I'm already envisioning I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that person. I'm already now looking at, I was always a people person, an examiner of people, looking at older people who showed up negative. You know, we call that the grumpy old man, the grumpy old woman syndrome. I don't want to be that. And in order to not be that, wherever you are right now in the spectrum of age, from 18 on up, you now have an opportunity to break that chain, to break that pattern, to not be that person, to not be that guy, to not be that woman. And understand that sometimes in doing the work, you got to sit down or stop dating or take a fast from trying to, you know, there's this trajectory, if you will, that society puts you on. You know, you should be married at a certain age. You should have children at a certain age. You should be successful at a certain age. You should own your own house at a certain age. You should have accomplished certain things at a certain age. And I've noticed that with love and relationships in particular, there's this pressing, unseen date, point in time that people feel that something should be happening. And Spirit just might be asking you to focus on yourself. I'm going to say it again. This is what created the problem day before yesterday, to be more selfish. Sometimes you have to be more selfish. And I do not mean toxic. I don't mean negative. I don't mean bad. I mean self-care, self-awareness, being able to care enough about myself that I'm willing to look at myself clean and dirty, inside and out, front and back, top and bottom, naked, without any corruption of idea. We talk about body dysmorphism on this show sometimes as a symbol of spiritual dysmorphism. Some of you think you gods and you just little demons. Some of you think you goddesses and you just little jinn. Some of you think you're, you know, master wizards and you just an elf right now. You just an imp right now. You just a ghost of who you really are right now. And I'm talking about getting honest. You got to be able to get honest with your weaknesses. You got to be able to get honest with what you need help with. Okay, this is my strengths. I got that down. Most people got that down. But these are my weaknesses. Now, how do I fix, repair, or change that? How do I call in an expert? I called in an expert. Okay. So that's one of my appointments I'm having today. I called in an expert. What should one do if their mom allowed her boyfriend to beat them as children, and now they have toxic relationships? That's a tough one, Hoodoo cultism. It's also one that I can connect with personally, because again, my father was violent. My father would hit you with anything, not just the belt, the extension cord, the 2x4 board, the hammer, you know, the dog chain, the dried up Christmas tree, you know, the whole evergreen tree, and you put it in the backyard, and now it's July and it's dried up. You know, yeah, he got me between that tree and a brick wall. I must have been, I don't know, 15 when that happened. You know, sometimes my timing is cloudy from that period because of the violence. Sometimes you only remember the violence, and so that solidifies the point in time. And then other times you only remember the violence, and then you lose some of the other details. And so you got to do your shadow work, Hoodoo occultism. You have to do your shadow work. That is walking back in time, in time space, to those moments and address them. But first you have to address who you were as a kid. You have to acknowledge the kid. You have to acknowledge the feelings of the kid. You have to acknowledge that you were just a kid, and so you couldn't protect yourself, and the people who should have protected you were not doing so. And so now you got to heal that kid. You got to stand up for that kid, and now you got to protect that kid. I know for me, and I'm getting real naked right now, it was about protection, and it still is today. I've got a weapon in every part of the house. Okay, I don't go anywhere unprotected. I don't set myself up for scenarios where I might have to aggress or be aggressed. And if I am going to be aggressed, I'm well prepared for aggression. So that's one way that shows up. But at the emotional level, particularly now you're trying to form relationships, you have to be careful about your temperament. You have to be careful about the things that are your triggers, the things that make you angry, the things that might give you fear, the things that might affect your output, your projection in any given moment, because you might now be not the person who's perpetrating the aggression, but you now might be accepting it. And we see a lot of that, particularly with men. You might be now attracting young women who are aggressive, violent, over the top, a little bit psycho, you know, and it could be, again, a footprint of the toxic effects of your mother's partners who were abusive to you. Now you carry that, and you're going to carry it either in your body, so it's going to show up either in your weight or your health or your mental health, or it's going to show up in